characters throughout the Dharmachi story, Freya being one of them. Hermes definitely has contributed in small ways, though I kind of see him as a little bit too naughty at times with how he tries to push Belle around. And then, of course, Hestia as well has definitely contributed. Everyone in some way, shape, or form, even Wolf has. They've all helped Belle in meaningful ways, and I feel like some of the characters that have helped, like the receptionist, have been unappreciated because the anime, and again, sometimes people forget, but the focus sometimes only goes on certain characters, and the minor characters kind of get forgotten. They get sidelined, and this is one of those that I feel like does get sidelined. As far as romance goes, I don't see this romance ever going anywhere, as much as it is kind of cute. The back and forth that they have between each other, the misunderstandings. There's definitely those moments where certain people are watching when they're having their little squabbles, and anyone would think that it's a lover's dispute. But I really do feel like she has contributed in so many deep and meaningful ways towards Belle, and I think it's made Belle a better person. I think probably my favourite scene is, of course, when she gets a little bit too riled up because Belle went to the Pleasure District. Again, he was searching for a friend, and then ends up getting wrapped up in some stuff that I don't think he wanted to be, and of course Hermes set him up for a bit of a misunderstanding, which then led him to getting a bit scolded by others around him. But again, I mean, as much as she can definitely scold him, she can definitely get frustrated at him, she still cares for him, especially at moments, you know, where Belle has broken down crying. She has sat there and consoled him and helped him and showed that she still cares, even though she can get frustrated at him for sometimes doing things that aren't particularly wise. But again, Belle is Belle. He does silly things, he puts himself in awkward positions, but somehow he always comes out of it on top, whether through his own stupid luck or others assisting him through his adventures. And again, this is one person that has helped Belle in many different small meaningful ways. Maybe not being there in the dungeon, because of course she can't go into the dungeon because she's, one, not equipped, not skilled enough, and two, she is the receptionist. But she has definitely given Belle lifelong skills. It's the saying goes, give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. I think it's important to note that, again, teaching Belle the fundamentals and even some of the more advanced stuff when it comes to the dungeon can help you survive in very dire situations. I think that is why I really do love the relationship between her and Belle. Even though it's a very simple relationship, I still love it nonetheless. But again, I'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. What are your thoughts about this relationship? I think it's, again, a very simple, basic relationship, but I feel like sometimes a lot of people forget about this relationship, not appreciating just her little contributions. But again, I'd love to know your thoughts. But if you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe for more anime content, and I will see you, beautiful nerds, in the next video.
This hut must be Nasser's. I guess she prefers the quiet of the forest over living in the city. There stalks the mighty hunter.
When looking at Renee's relationship with Irons, one of the first things to look at is how she first got in contact with the tomb itself and who she first was majorly exposed to, which of course was Demi and Albedo. And of course the first person that she made contact with was Demi when it came to him confronting her, realizing her true nature, and then striking a deal. And then of course that deal was that she would be a spy for the tomb in exchange for guaranteeing that Klein's safety was, you know, safe and sound, so that she could live out her wildest fantasies, which of course I spoke about in my previous video. What I think is really kind of fascinating is how that relationship has grown throughout the volumes and the way it did in the latest volume. And of course it started off, as I said, with Demi, then expanded to Albedo, but it never really went to anything other stories. It mainly focused on Demi and Albedo and Renee kind of built that relationship around them both being very obsessive about their individual men that they are. that's how they've been able to build that kindred spirit. But with Demi and Renee, it's more of their clients and kind of being fascinated by it. And of course, the relationship with Demi and Renee is being more built on Demi's fascination with Renee because of her hidden personality, her true nature that he uncovered, him being interested in her. It's very much the same with Alberto. Alberto is a bit interested in Renee because of that nature. But of course, that relationship has built up over time. When you look at Renee's relationship with Irons, it's more built on her knowing things through them, the proxy of having them talk about Irons in such a high regard, and her kind of always in a wonder of how he doesn't just use brute force but intelligence. And of course, she is not seeing the bigger picture that, again, Irons sees, is that, of course, Irons isn't all knowing and all magnificent. It's more just he wings it and is able to pull off miracle after miracle after miracle, but also relying on the other floor guardians, particularly Demi and Alberto, when it comes to their sheer intelligence, has allowed him to make very clever and calculated decisions. It's just, I would say Irons' true intelligence comes from him being able to use the other two guardians to their full potential and basically saying, well, you know, I already know what I need to do, but you need to work out what I'm thinking. And then Irons just kind of going, yeah, that's what I was thinking. They're trying to think up the best scenario, thinking that's what Irons is thinking, and then him going, yeah, that was what I was thinking. In itself is very silly, but at the same time very cunning and manipulative. I sometimes think Irons underestimates just how smart he can be at times by using simple tricks, to say the least. But what I think it comes down to with Irons and Renee's relationship is more just how she sees him as this sort of omnipotent being, this supreme being, and that's how she refers to him, as the supreme being. She has a very almost similar respect for Irons as what the other NPCs have. Some of the NPCs see Irons in a different way depending on the individual. Of course, Alberto sees him a lot more obsessively, while Demi sees so much more respect and Irons as someone that can do no wrong, and that's kind of how I see Renee, at least how the light novels has depicted him in her eyes, is that she sees he can do no wrong, and a lot of that comes down to the fact that he's made very clever and calculated decisions. But the thing is that his decisions are built on Alberto and Demi's, and I see true intelligence not being in that you yourself can make every perfect decision, but you utilizing your surroundings to the best of your ability.
It's not surprising that cards that are good get remembered in the game's history. If something's good, a lot of people win with it, maybe it wins a YCS or something, and a lot of people lose to it as well, and it doesn't even matter if it makes it to the Forbidden or Limited list, although that definitely does help, because once a card hits that list, it is forever solidified into everyone's memories and the game's history, because if a card is good but doesn't make that list, well, then people do have the chance to forget about it, but we'll never forget about cards that were at one point on the ban list. I think of a card like Tsukiyomi. Everyone knew that card way back in 2005, and obviously when it did get banned, people remembered it, but even now that it's off the ban list, I think if you ask the average player what Tsukiyomi did, they would probably know at least somewhat what that card's effect was and why it was played.
Is that how you greet all your customers?
The other end of the spectrum is cards that are so bad and have silly
Soldiers
artwork,
take what
but they
they
sort of
want.
have
Only
a
the
cult
best horse
following.
I
I
ever
think of cards
owned.
like Shape Snatch, I think of cards like Moki Moki. Those types of
I
cards
feel
that
the
maybe
same
never
about
saw
my
competitive
phones.
play
We
and
did
probably
everything
never
together.
will, but they still
He'd
have
do
sort of a
anything.
following because they're so
He sounds
terrible
like a true
that people just
I
find
need
them
him back to
endearing.
cart my shit
And
bags.
that's kind of the two ends of the spectrum.
He's my
There's
biggest customer.
thousands of
I'm
cards
trying to hunt
between
him
those,
down.
and I think
Save me
that's
from
the
Dragon's
real
Wrath.
shame. I think
Find
the
my
real
spirit.
downside of like having so many
You
cards
need
in
him
the
so
card
bad.
game
Be quick,
is that there's
please.
all these
Where
cards
did
in
they
the middle
take him?
that are just
They must have him
painfully
at the...
mediocre. And the Wicked Gods, which
Looks
is what
like
we're
I
going to
have
be
a
talking
horse.
about in today's
What
video,
would I do
fall
to
into
see
this
you, Horace?
category. They are not as iconic as the Egyptian gods, which were played in the original series. They're not as powerful as the Sacred Beast, which actually saw some experimentation and also have received some support as the years have gone on. The Wicked Gods are just somewhere in between. They're not very good, and they also aren't very iconic, so a lot of people forget about them, and in today's video we are going to talk about why nobody plays the Wicked Gods. Much like the Sacred Beast, the Wicked Gods are based on the 3 original Egyptian god cards. However, we'll immediately see that their summoning conditions are so awful, so all 3 of them cannot be special summoned in any way. They also can't be normal summoned or set, except by attributing 3 monsters. So if we flash back to the Egyptian gods, where they all had that effect, except Slifer and Obelisk, both could technically be special summoned. They just blew up in the end phase. But that's worth noting that these cards can't be special summoned in any means. And also you have to tribute 3 monsters to summon them, so it's not looking so hot. So let's see what their effects are. The Wicked Dreadroot is the Obelisk retrain, and its effect is really straightforward, actually less than 2 lines of text besides the summoning condition. It says, have the attack and defense of all monsters on the field
like
except this card, and that is really disappointing. I think that when you're tributing 3 cards for something, or any time in Yu-Gi-Oh, when you're consolidating 3 cards into 1 card, that 1 card has to be pretty darn good. I think back to cards like Trishula, Dragon of the Ice Barrier, a card that immediately recuperates your loss because you lose 3 monsters to summon 1 guy, so that's a -2 in card advantage, because coming out of the extra deck, you start with 3 cards, you end up with 1 card, so then you're a -2 in card advantage, but when it comes out, you get to banish 3 cards, so you actually end up going even if you hit a card on their field and a card in your opponent's hand. That's going even in card economy, and then the graveyard card is kind of free, although it doesn't actually play into account of the card economy. But anyway, that card is like a huge payoff for 3 monsters, and so I think that if we compare all of these monsters to sort of that kind of thing, or even to the original Egyptian gods, we'll kind of see why they don't work so well. And the Wicked Dreadroot is just painfully mediocre, like the rest of these cards, but I think more so than the other 2. This card is just so boring. I mean, it doesn't really do anything flashy. It looks cool, but it kind of suffers from the same problem that I talked about a lot. I think I talked about this when I talked about Uriah and all those sorts of cards. When a card has more than 3,000 attack, it really can just attack over anything usually, and it doesn't really matter if you increase its attack or if it increases other cards' attack, so it depends. And this thing wouldn't have had any issue running over any card without the attack having effect, and yet that's the only effect it has. So kind of just, I mean, honestly, this card is worse than Obelisk the Tormentor in basically every single way, which is something that I didn't think I would say about any card. But let's move on to the Wicked Eraser. This card did see some experimentation, I'll get to that in a second. So it has the exact same summoning condition, but then also the attack and defense of this card are each equal to the number of cards your opponent controls times 1,000. So if your opponent has 1 card, it has 1,000 attack, 2 cards, 2,000 attack, etc. When this card is destroyed into the graveyard, destroy all cards on the field. During your main phase, you can destroy this card. So a couple things to talk about here. First off, this card can simply be played around by your opponent, not activating any cards or placing any cards on the field, and that's kind of rough. A lot of times, I like to talk about how when cards require your opponent to do things, that weakens the power level of the cards themselves. Now, there are obviously exceptions to this, because that would mean that basically every trap card isn't good, but cards like Solemn Strike and Solemn Judgment and Solemn Warning are obviously good cards because they interact with the opponent. But many of the best decks in the game, especially when we're looking at monster card effects, they don't interact with the opponent, or they don't have to interact with the opponent. The Wicked Eraser suffers because your opponent can just not set anything or not play anything, and then it has 0 attack points, and you might think that that's worth it. You might think, well, that makes this card good because your opponent can't or won't play anything, and now you just have a big guy. That's not really what happens, though. What happens is your opponent just summons like 1 guy and attacks over this thing. It's only 1,000 attack. That's pretty disappointing. And yes, so when this card is destroyed since the graveyard, destroy all cards on the field. This is why this card saw experimentation. So you could pop this card with a card like Fire King Avatar. Or is it just Fire King Yaksha? The Yaksha Fire King can pop this card in your hand. That's kind of neat. Although Fire Kings already have the Runic, so I'm not sure that's really necessary. This card was briefly played around with True Dracos and True Kings, because they can play Draconic Diagram to pop this card in the hand and blow up the field. That's kind of neat, but in general, it's not worth it. You might be thinking, well, the cool thing about this card is you summon it, and then during your main phase, you blow it up. Here's the issue. You've just lost 4 cards to blow up the board when you could have easily just activated Dark Hole or activated Regeki. The fact that this card blows up back row doesn't really make it worth the extra 3 tributes compared to the cards that I just mentioned. Even a card that's as bad as Lightning Vortex would probably be better than the Wicked Eraser if you're trying to go for board wipes. This card is just awkwardly positioned. It only really works if your opponent has a lot of cards, but if your opponent has a lot of cards, it's very likely that one of them can actually just deal with this thing, because the amount of cards your opponent has to have that would do nothing would just have to be ridiculous for this card to have a lot of attack points and also stick on the board. But moving on, let's look at the last Wicked God, and this one is the weirdest of the bunch for a lot of reasons. First off, what is this artwork? The Wicked Avatar is literally just a bowling ball. That is so strange for a card that is supposed to be the embodiment of evil, and I do know that because it's the opposite of the original God card, this is supposed to be the Ring Dragon Raw retrain. It's supposed to sort of mimic Raw Sphere mode, and boy does it look silly. I mean, it looks like they didn't finish the artwork. What a ridiculous looking card. Anyway though, this card is strange, so your opponent cannot activate spell or trap cards until the end of their second turn. After this card is normal summoned, that's actually really cool, and if the other effect didn't suck so bad, this card might actually be playable. The problem is the attack and defense of this card are each 100 points higher than the highest basic monster's attack on the field. So the problem here is that even though it has this really cool stun effect, which I think a lot of people forgot about, I forgot about it, I definitely didn't know about that. The problem is that this, while it technically doesn't require your opponent to have anything, because you could have another high attack monster, there's almost no scenario where you will be able to summon 3 monsters, tribute them to normal summon this thing.
Deep sea driving, I see.
Something like that.
Well, here's something else. With your farmer's policy perk, new car replacement, you can get a new one.
That's something else.
Get a whole lot of something with farmer's policy perks.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Now streaming on Disney Plus. Let me show you the legend of Artemis Fowl.
It's real.
You're invited. Your father will protect mankind from the dangers of another world to go beyond the legend and into a new world.
You think I'm ready?
I know you're ready, son.
This looks like the place.
Now streaming on Disney Plus.
And then also have a high attack monster on the field, so this thing doesn't just have 0 attack points or like 1500 or something. And if all those pieces aligned, well, you probably could have just made like a synchro summon or a seed summon or a link summon. Any other type of summon probably would have been better than the Wicked Avatar. And it really does suck because this card would have been cool if it had just like, honestly, if this card just had 3000 attack, that would have been probably enough this to see play in some format. The stun effect is really interesting, and if it just was on a bigger body, a bigger consistent body, because I do realize this card technically can have a lot of attack points, but if it was consistently on a monster with 3000 attack, that might have been a neat effect. Now, if we do look at modern Yu-Gi-Oh!, which I don't usually do in these videos, this kind of effect simply doesn't matter and hasn't mattered for a very long time. Cold Wave and cards like it were really good back in the day when effect monsters weren't as powerful as they were. Nowadays we see decks like Pendulum Editions where they're only playing like 4 spells in the entire deck and the other 36 cards are monsters, and I think that's pretty common. You see grass decks, really the only deck right now in the metagame that doesn't play that many monsters is True Dracos, and even then, they wouldn't really care if you summon this against them. They can still set their spells or traps and tribute them for Masterpiece. It's not really that big a deal, but Yu-Gi-Oh! For the most part has moved away from a reliance on spells and traps and their effects, and pretty much is a monster-oriented game with the spells and traps just more consistent ways to get to see cards like Pot of Desires, Pot of Duality, Card of Demise. Those cards are played specifically to see your monster cards, not so much to see your other spells and traps, which means that this card's stun effect is not as good as when it came out. And even that, when this card came out, and all its cards came out, none of them really saw any competitive play other than the Wicked Racer with that really small experimentation in both Fire Kings and Dragonic Diagram decks. Outside of that though, boy, these cards are just underwhelming. I mean, I started off the video talking about how they're so painfully mediocre, but I really feel that that's their card's problem. These cards aren't that interesting. They're not terrible, but they're certainly not good, which puts them in that really awkward middle ground where people just don't remember them. And I think that's kind of like the problem for a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh cards. If they're not iconic, if they're not good, or they're not utterly terrible. People just don't remember them as the year goes on, and I think that most people, if you remember the Egyptian gods and the sacred beasts, you might not remember the wicked gods, which I think is pretty sad, because they're kind of interesting, and they all kind of have promise, well maybe not so much. Dread Root, that card's pretty terrible, but the other two at least have some promise compared to the sacred beasts.
They must have really wanted something from you. The farm.
Released in 2011, the Storm of Ragnarok set was pretty influential. If you go back to that set, you can look at a bunch of really powerful generic cards, things like Maxi, and even Doppel Warrior, and Forbidden Lance, and even Chaos Hunters in that set. And then you can look at some really specific cards, archetype cards, things like Six Samurai. They got a bunch of new monsters and new spells. And also even Karakuri got a huge boost. And that set was really, really good for the competitive landscape of Yu-Gi-Oh!
I've been on Noom for 4 months, I've lost 27 pounds, and I feel like I got my life back.
I've been on Noom for 4 months, and I've lost 16 pounds.
I'm down 10 kilos in 4 months. It turns out I can do this.
I definitely feel that my brain has been rewired with the help of Noom.
I'm much more mindful about why I'm eating and what I'm eating.
Every other diet, it just says to you, you can eat this, you can eat that, you can't eat this, you can't eat that, and that's it.
If you change up here, everything will fall into place.
Lots of vitamin C.
エファイストスやタケたちとも話したんだけど、ウィーネ君のことを調べるには地上では限界がある。情報が集まるとしたらギルドだけど、もしバレたらファミリアの立場も危うくなりますし、あの子もどうなることか。だからできるだけ内密にダンジョンに行ってきてほしいんだ。何でもいい。確かめてきてくれ。
わかりました。
ベル、行っちゃうの？
大丈夫だよ。すぐに帰ってくるから。
3人だけで19階層行きか。
1日以上かかるかもしれませんね。と言ってもうかつに助っ人を頼むわけにもいかないし。
リディラの町に向かいたい。
できればリュウさんに協力してもらえたらなって。今日中にこなさないといけないクエストのようなものがあって。
申し訳ありませんが、私にも店の務めがありますので。
ベルクラネル、近くまで来たから春姫の様子でも見に行こうと思ってね。
実は。
おお、さすがアマゾネス。
私が引き受けてやる。
本当ですか？
私の報酬は高いよ。一度あんたとはダンジョンに潜ってみたかったからね。合意の上で。
離れなさい、アマゾネス。
私にもこの坊やに末永くよろしくお願いしちまってる妹分がいるよ。あんたもこのオスに入れ込んでる口か？
勘違いしないでほしい。彼にはすでに伴侶の戦略がある。フラネルさんを困らせるだ。品性がない相手に彼は任せられない。あなたこそ引け。
ああ、分かった分かった。先に私が味見しといてやるから、そっちは手をつなぐところから始めてな。エルフらしくね。
シル、半休を取ります。フラネルさんのミサオを守るため私が同行し見張り。
かなったりですけど、
名を挙げた冒険者っていうのもいろいろな奴らに目をつけられて苦労するな。
Fine. Here's the drachma. On second thought, you did save up this promise to me. Thank you. I appreciate the gesture.
In today's video, I've got 5 facts about Eyes Wallenstein from the series Is It Wrong to Try to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon / a character analysis video. But hey, if you're new here, why not join the 4-on-4 community by hitting the subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss a video. And a quick warning that there will be spoilers in this video, so just a heads up. So with that being said, let's roll intro and get straight into the video. Eyes is an executive in the Loki familia, who also goes by the name Sword Princess or even War Princess. She is considered one of the strongest amongst the small group of first-class adventurers, and it's very clear to see why. She is nothing short of a badass. Nice ass too. Well, Eyes, like mentioned in my Hestia and Belle videos, made her anime debut in episode 1 and her manga debut in volume 1 as well. Eyes is a 16-year-old female human who stands at 162 centimeters, which makes her 5'4". I thought she was taller than Belle, who stands at 5'5" apparently, but not according to this. Yeah. Anyway, appearance-wise, Eyes is a natural beauty. It's easy to see why Belle fell for her so hard. Her body alone? Nice. Fun fact, did you know that Eyes has received over 1,000 romantic offers and has turned down every single one of them? Sometimes violently if the offers are too perverted for her liking. To finish off appearance, she has long golden blonde hair and, again, golden coloured eyes. Attire-wise, when not in battle, she wears a white one-piece dress that has a gold lining that exposes her sides. Nice. And a high neck. The same kind of one-piece dress is worn under her armour, except with a blue/black lining.
It better be worth all the trouble.
Yes,
Dragon is mine till the end of time.
Nice.
It waits patiently for the potion in my hood.
Fun fact before we move on, did you know that Eyes' favourite food is jaga maruka, which is fried crushed potatoes with added spices? Thought I'd throw that in there. Personality-wise, Eyes is very quiet and a woman of very few words. This gives Eyes this very mysterious persona that, adds intrigue to her character and quite possibly adds to the attraction from members of the opposite sex. Truth is that Eyes basically struggles to put her feelings into words and decided to stay quiet. That's quiet that in all of the first season of Danmachi, Eyes' dialogue consists of only 149 words. Crazy, right? Interesting points on her character, because we don't get an awful lot of dialogue from her. We don't really know an awful lot about her, but it has been said that she is quite the dipsy type, being described as an airhead. It's also understood that mentally Eyes is younger than her actual age. I'm guessing this is all matters outside of battle, as we can clearly see that this girl knows what she's doing in that department. Now, despite being a first-class adventurer, Eyes does not look down on the weak. Best example of this is Belle. She sees the same strong will to be stronger in order to reach his goal that she sees within herself. This, of course, led Eyes to lending Belle her services to train him. Though when it comes to Belle, Eyes has a very strong interest in him and wants to protect him best that she can. So much so that sometimes she acts without thinking when she hears that he is in trouble. The question is why, maybe, but Belle brings out a side to Eyes that even herself is questioning. She was described by members of her own familia as being much happier when she was training Belle. It's very clear that she is developing some romantic feelings for him. No. Finally, for all of Eyes' awesomeness, she does have
There are many dangerous beasts out in the wild.
I need you to go and rescue whoever she had quite the traumatic experience when she was 7.
I'll destroy the beast and see if anyone's still in one piece.
If they are, bring them back to water and claiming it to be swimming training.
I'll go and find
this has obviously left emotional scars, as Eyes now avoids water at all costs, and not just in the dungeon floors. When it comes to bathing, she will stay in the areas where her feet can comfortably reach the ground. Poor Eyes. Eyes' Japanese voice actress is Onishi Sayori. She has voiced other characters such as Vignette in Gabriel Dropout, Miyuki Kujo from Shomin Sample, Mamina in Gate, Sawako Sekijo from We Never Learn, and more. Eyes' English voice actress is Shelley Saline Black. She has voiced other characters such as Rumiko Kagome in Rosario Vampire, Madoka Kurakami from Madoka Box, Kuroko Smith in Monster Musume, Kyo Fujibayashi from Clannad, and more. Now,
Now, for Ai's backstory, what's her reason, her goal for becoming stronger? Ai's mother, Arya, which means heir in Latin, thought through him, was a beautiful woman who was deeply caring and kind to her daughter. Ai's described her as like the wind, a kind of wind that would bring happiness to anyone. Supposedly an adventurer herself, she was part of a party that fought the one-eyed black dragon. Her fate is unknown after this battle, but it is thought by Ais that her mother either died in the battle or had been taken by the dragon. So, revenge is the motivation behind her goal to become stronger. Ais wants to defeat and kill the dragon that took her mother from her. Because of this revenge-filled drive, Ais refuses to consider herself a hero. Now, Ais joined the hero at the age of 4 as a supporter to the other adventurers while training as hard as she could so that she could become an adventurer herself. Previous to Belle's rapid growth to level 2, Ais held the record for the fastest growth between level 1 and 2, as she accomplished this in just under a year. Ais is currently a level 6 adventurer, and one hell of an adventurer at that. She has a magic ability called Ariel, which is named after the spirit of air from the play The Tempest by William Shakespeare. Now, this magical ability is a wind enchantment spell that can be used as both a weapon and a means of defense. This spell has been described as abnormal due to its immense strength and how its power is far beyond that of a normal enchantment spell. Next, Avenger. This is a skill that seriously boosts Ais' attack power against monsters. This skill is fueled by emotion, and when used against dragons, because of the previous facts inside, we know her feelings of hate for them. This seriously raises this skill's effect. Now, this skill is so strong that when Ais used this as a level 1 adventurer, her blade caused her enemy's body to explode upon contact. Other skills and development abilities she has are Hunter, which again is a stat boost when Ais fights against monsters she has encountered before. Then there is Swordsman, which is pretty much self-explanatory for her character. Abnormal resistance negates the effects of things such as poison. And finally, Spirit Healing, which is a rare ability that begins to instantly heal Ais' mind after using magic. But thanks for watching this my video. 5 facts about Ais Wallenstein from the series Is It Wrong to Try to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon? If you enjoyed the video, if you'd like to see more characters from the series, of course let me know in the comments. And a quick shout out to my 314 Elite Patreons.
I feel faint.
Most Monday ever.
I need to get him back to Hippocrates before he bleeds out all over me.
Belle Cronell from the series Is It Wrong to Try to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon / a character analysis video. But hey, if you're new here, why not join the 414 community by hitting the subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss a video. And a quick warning that there will be spoilers, so just a heads up. So, with that being said, let's roll intro and get straight into the video. Belle is the main protagonist of the series. He is the captain of the Hestia Familia and received the alias Little Rookie when he leveled up to a level 2 adventurer, and at level 4, his alias was changed to Rabbitfoot. Belle made his anime debut in episode 1 and volume 1 of the manga. Like my Hestia video, kind of obvious, but again, yay facts. Now, Belle is a 14-year-old male human who stands at 165 centimeters, which makes him 5'5". His alias of Rabbitfoot comes from his appearance, as he is said to
This man is a monster. He's a slave trader who treats people so terribly that they injure them just to avoid work. If I help him, he'll continue to hurt others. But if I choose to do nothing, many will be spared pain and suffering.
I know the majority of us guys view bunnies slightly different in the anime world, if you
It shouldn't matter what this man has done. He deserves to be treated like anyone else. We can't judge other
I know it's my duty to help this man, but if you'd seen some of the injuries that has caused, you would understand.
What if I free his slaves? If he has no slaves, he can.
Yes, I can save this man, and you can prevent him from hurting others. Our kindness here will show him the error of his ways.
He wears a long-sleeved black shirt, black pants,
of course I'll free the slaves.
Thank you, my friend.
And chin-high brown boots. Now, fun fact
the slaves are in danger.
Did you know that Belle has appeared on every single light novel cover except for that of Volume 8? Personality-wise, Belle wants to be a hero, just like the ones he used to read about as a child. He certainly has the attributes. He's brave.
Receiving incoming transmission.
Especially his goddess Hestia. What makes Belle such a charming character? cover, except for that of Volume 8. Personality-wise, Bell wants to be a hero, just like the ones he used to read about as a child. He certainly has the attributes. He's brave, straight to the point, cares deeply for his familiar, especially his goddess Hestia. What makes Bell such a charming character is that although he has these traits, he still has this shy side to him, which I guess you could say keeps him grounded or gives him his own unique spin on the hero persona. Though it is definitely worth mentioning that Bell's intentions for becoming an adventurer in the beginning were not all, let's say, heroic. Yeah, the main reason he wanted to be this heroic adventurer is so that he could pick up girls and dreamed as far as one day having his own harem. Reminds me of my early YouTube days, actually. Anyway, this didn't last all that long, to be honest. Yes, when he ended up meeting Eyes, he did pretty much fall in love with her, but his intentions as an adventurer went from picking up girls to catching up to someone of her level and being worthy of standing beside her. But going back to his shy side, he does get easily embarrassed when others learn of his dreams to be a hero, as most people grow out of this dream by his age. But stick to your dreams, Bell. Stick to those dreams. Bell now, of course, does have some bad traits. For one, he is a terrible liar and couldn't keep a secret to save his life. One of the main reasons that Hestia hasn't told him about the skill behind his extraordinarily fast growth is because she knows that he wouldn't be able to keep it a secret for very long. The second is that he is way too trusting. This trusting nature of his ended up getting him tricked out of his money multiple times before he even realised what was going on. Also, we have seen on many occasions does get used very easily and goes really timid, talking around girls, which could be another reason as to why he gave up on his harem. Beneath the twisted personality lies a person with a strong will and desire. This strong will and desire was so great, especially his feeling for Eyes, that he earned him the skill behind his rapid growth, and resolved to overcome his fear of minotaurs, which led to that first episode where he took one down while he was still awesome. Bell's Japanese voice actor is Natsuka Yoshitsugu. His voice with characters such as Kirito in Sword Art Online, Sorata Kanda from the Pet Girl Sakura So, Sora in Okay Life, Sora Yukihira from Food Wars, and Bell's English voice actor is Bryson Bogus. He's voiced with characters such as Takumi Ali in Food Wars, Kimihito Kurosu from Monsters, Mitsuru in Darling in the Franxx, Shoyo Hinata from Haikyuu, and more. Now, for Bell's backstory, Bell was raised by his grandfather Zeus. Well, his adoptive grandfather. Not a lot has been mentioned about Zeus other than he was head of one of the strongest familiar. Now, the Zeus familiar were majorly weakened after their loss to the one-eyed black dragon. Sounds like you get. And because of this, they were forced out of Arario. Zeus went on to become a farmer in a small village by the mountains where he would raise Bell and even save him from a goblin attack. Now, to Bell, Zeus was a huge father figure and would tell him stories of heroes and adventures that would eventually give Bell his dream of becoming like these heroes in the stories he was told. Zeus was also a bit of a pervert, and this is more than likely where Bell's original harem dream came from. Unfortunately for Bell, Zeus did eventually die. Spoilers. He actually didn't. So this leads Bell to leaving the village to pursue his adventurer dream. Though upon arriving in Arario, Bell struggled to find a familiar that would accept him, and he was rejected time after time, until a goddess called Hestia, who was also struggling to recruit members for her familiar, eventually asked him to join her after stalking him for a short period, to which Bell accepted without hesitation. Bell is currently a level 4 adventurer. It took him a month and a half to go from level 1 to 2, a month to achieve level 3, and then a further 2 months to get where he is now at level 4. As for magic, Bell only knows one spell, which is Firebolt. Bell learned this spell from a grimoire he borrowed. This is a nice, easy spell as it requires no chant, and he will sometimes combine it with a skill he has called Argonaut for stronger damage. Now, Argonaut is a skill that basically charges things. At present, it takes 4 minutes to fully charge. This charge will amplify attacks, boost his speed, but will break if he is attacked or loses focus. Another downside is that the recoil of this charge will break or damage whatever weapon he is using this charge on. He has used this skill to charge up his hand for a punch, and the recoil caused him to severely injure that hand. And as you can imagine, the longer this skill is activated, the worse the recoil. He's also developed a dual charge called Argo Vesta, which is the one he would combine with his only magic ability, Firebolt. Another skill he has is called the Iris Freeze, and this is the big one, I guess. This skill increases the rate of Belle's growth. The rate of the growth is in correlation with the strength of Belle's feelings, which is really fitting to his character, but I guess this skill came about due to his characteristics or whatever. Anyway, downside to this skill is that Belle becomes immune to charms. Other skills and development abilities he has are Oxslayer, which increases all his abilities when fighting bull-type monsters. Luck, which is pretty much self-explanatory. Abnormal resistance negates the effects of things such as poison. And finally, Escape, which basically increases his speed while running away. But thanks for watching this one video. 5 facts about Belle Crenelle from the series Is It Wrong to Try to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon? I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you'd like to see more characters from this series, of course, let me know in the comments. And a quick shout out to my 4-on-4 elite Patreons. That's in Thomas, Jamie, Emma, Autumn, Joshua, and Carr. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for supporting me. If you are interested in what rewards I have to offer on my Patreon, the link, of course, is in the description below. And while you're at it, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to smash the like button, as it really does help these videos reach a wider audience, and subscribe for more anime content. Till next time, my fellow weebs, peace!
Guys, you are not going to believe where I am today. The GVGW team invited me to their factory. If you didn't know, I'm a massive fan. I grew up on Gundam. And when I told my mom when I was coming, she was like, well, there's the action figures you played with as a kid? And I was like, yeah, but no, because look at that. This is awesome. I gotta get one of those.
Welcome, Preston. We're honored to have you, and it's an honor to be here. Are you worthy of it?
Yes.
We are humbled by... Wait, what was that?
What?
That.
That was you.
I can talk. I can talk. Man, I've never heard my voice before. La 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 la.
Whoa.
Hey, they never let people back here. You must be a Gunpla master or a legend.
I'm not a legend yet, but I could be with one of those.
Hey, you want it?
I can have it?
No, that one's for us. But you can build your own.
Oh, like in the game?
Yeah, dude. You're at the Gunpla factory. That's kind of what we do.
Let's go! So I can use parts from my old Gunplas or use new ones.
You can make anything you want here. What you thinking? Don't forget defenses.
Yeah, but if I focus on just having good dodge, I don't have to worry about getting hit, right? Because I really think that the best defense is a good offense.
Shields have skills too. Most players don't know that.
Yeah, but also at the same time, I'm not most players. Because when I first started playing, I was building with a lot of damage. But now, oh, I want that Arya's head. Oh, and this backpack. Yes, skills over strength any day.
That's pretty cool.
This is it.
Are you sure?
Yup.
Sweet, let's take it for a spin.
Let's go.
The controls make it easier to become a Gunpla master, so no need to thank me.
I walked in a master, and now I'm walking out a legend.
I'm so excited. Look at me. I'm shaking.
Oh, yes! Let's do this, bro. Oh, no, you don't. We did not build enough power for that Gunpla, bro. Oh, think you can block this sword? How about that? Damn!
That was sick. High five.
But you don't have hands.
Come on, man. Just do the motion.
All right, you're up.
Hey, who are you talking to?
I'm an influencer. It's a social media thing. That's just what we do.
Oh, cool. What's social media?
Wow. Welcome to the show, everybody. The last 24 hours in American politics are the craziest 24 hours I've ever been involved with from the standpoint of covering them. And we had, I think, 6 hours of live streams yesterday in addition to the broadcast show and the bonus show. And almost an impossibility to even keep up with what is going on. So today's show is going to be very different than any show we've done. We are, in a sense, we are winging it, and what I mean by that is, I have about 13 or 14 different stories that I would like to talk about today. And we may get to all of them, and we may not. In other words, I'm starting today not with every minute planned as we normally have, but with an idea of the things we should discuss. And we'll just jump into them. And I know a lot of you have been emailing me saying, I can't keep up. Well, we haven't been able to keep up either. So let's try to do justice to the last 24 hours because the historical significance really cannot be overstated. Let's start with what happened yesterday. Yesterday, January 6th, was meant to be the day during which there would be a merely ceremonial counting of the electoral votes, which were cast on December 14th. In the November election, Joe Biden won via popular vote in the 50 U.S. states, winning some, losing some, getting enough electoral votes to become president. On December 14th, the electors in all 50
I freed the
states
slaves.
certified their
I've treated his injuries enough to stabilize him,
and on
but he isn't out of danger yet.
Those
I don't know if I can bring myself to complete the treatment.
A joint session of the House and Senate, led by Vice President Mike Pence,
I've
as
freed
president
his
of the
slaves,
Senate,
and
was
his business is
simply
finished.
count those votes.
Perhaps
Now, we knew there would be some chaos, because for 2 months Donald Trump has been
if I do nothing, I'll be no better than him. I'll make sure...
When he does, be sure to tell him how his life was...
Only the gods have the power to decide life.
That state to be
What I do is
overturned, that there were
insignificant.
massive
I've seen you
dumps
save
of
many from a
ballots,
trip down
that
the
Mike
sticks.
Pence
But
needs
look
to
at the
do
plague.
right thing,
For all
and
my
that
knowledge and
something,
experience,
and
I
it
could do
wasn't
nothing
just Trump,
against
but
it.
many of his
I
most
have to accept. I
sycophantic
must go.
supporters
I have an appointment with
were
him.
hoping, planning, believing that something would happen yesterday that would prevent Joe Biden from being determined in that joint session by Mike Pence, the winner of the 2020 election. Now, I'll skip to the end. It happened. It was delayed by a few hours, but it happened, and we will get to that. But what we imagined would simply be some debate. We knew there would be senators and members of the House on the Republican side standing up and objecting to the counting of ballots from certain states. Arizona, for example, Pennsylvania, and others. We knew that would happen. We expected there would be a couple of hours of debate for each of those objections. But then ultimately, Republicans didn't have the vote to hold up even a single state's votes from being counted. And that it might be 10 p.m., it might be 1 a.m., it might be 3 a.m., it might be this morning or later today. Eventually, they would run out of objections, they would run out of votes, and that would be it. But something else happened. Something else happened, which is that in the morning, Donald Trump incited an insurrectionist mob to march down Pennsylvania Avenue to the Capitol building and wreak havoc. Break down doors and destroy windows, commit property crimes, fight with police, some police actually injured, And this was fomented directly by Donald Trump. And this is not to say that many of these folks didn't have this idea going into yesterday already. But I am going to show you how Donald Trump did this. Donald Trump literally told them what to do. And later said, oh, please be peaceful. But we will get to that. Here is Donald Trump at this wacky event. I don't know what they were calling it. It was a steal the election rally, essentially. Here is Trump again saying, Mike Pence, you'd better do the right thing.
The left knows exactly what they're doing. They're ruthless. And it's time that somebody did something about it. And Mike Pence, I hope you're going to stand up for the good of our Constitution and for the good of our country. And if you're not, I'm going to be very disappointed. I will tell you right now. I'm not hearing good stories.
Donald Trump announcing his own vice president.
No! Out! Out!
Donald Trump continuing to fire up the crowd by saying the caravans are forming. Remember those caravans that up until the day before the 2018 midterms were every day in right-wing media? The caravans of dangerous Hispanic immigrants are coming. 2018 midterms happened. We don't hear about the caravans ever again until yesterday. Here is Trump ginning up more hate by saying the caravans are forming because they know Biden will let them in.
But now the caravans, they think Biden's getting in. The caravans are forming again. They want to come in again and rip off our country. Can't let it happen.
And then here is Donald Trump just literally telling them what to do, saying, we're going to march up Pennsylvania Avenue. We're going to go to the Capitol. He told them what to do, and they did it. Take a look.
We're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. I love Pennsylvania Avenue. And we're going to the Capitol, and we're going to try and give... The Democrats are hopeless. They're never voting for anything. Not even one vote. But we're going to try and give our Republicans, the weak ones, because the strong ones don't need any of our help. We're going to try and give them the kind of pride and boldness that they need to take back our country. So let's walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. I want to thank you all.
Looks like
God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you all for being here. This is incredible. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And that is exactly what they did.
Potter?
While we were covering what
Cassandra,
I thought would just
what are you doing here?
Really boring
I came to kill him.
For hour after hour
He wouldn't have
about
been a
Republican
challenge for you.
objections to the counting of ballots from certain
But I'm glad
states.
our paths have crossed
We saw
again.
live, and we had over 1.1 million different people.
This is the last
watch
place I
at least
expected
some
to
piece
find
of our
him.
live stream yesterday.
I left Stentor
We
with the
all
greatest
saw
responsibility a man
horror
could carry.
of us.
I couldn't leave him to face it alone.
How thoughtful.
Killing these champions will weaken the
angrier
opinion
and angrier,
and destroy the rebels' morale.
with police eventually overwhelming law enforcement, and there are many
Leaving
questions about
Stentor
how
to
that
pick up the
happened.
pieces in Megaris
Where
was a mistake.
law
I could not stay,
enforcement?
not
Was
after what
everything
happened.
from speculation to
I wasn't fit
conspiracy
for
theories,
it.
mere
Neither
belief in
is
competence,
Stentor,
and
but
at some
he
point we
isn't
will
running
figure
from
that
it.
out. Overwhelming law enforcement, breaking into the Capitol,
You've
leading Mike
changed
Pence
so
being
much.
taken out of there
This
by
is who I've always
Secret
been.
Service, leading
You
the
just
House and
weren't there
Senate
to see
leadership
it.
being taken sort of in
I
protective
will never
custody
be
or
able to change
by
that.
security to save
But I
to
can
save,
do something now
locations,
for someone
an
who needs me.
evacuation of the House and Senate
There are
chambers.
things
Protesters
Stentor
and
must hear to
mobsters
succeed.
and rioters, I don't even know what to call them, broke into Nancy Pelosi's office.
I wish you'd helped me back in Sparta.
They did exactly
But
what would be
Stentor
on the
does
logical
need
end
help
of 2
now,
months of firing
even if he
people
doesn't
up
want
with
to admit
lies,
it.
culminating with Trump saying
Stentor is as much your
12:30
family
PM,
as I am.
half an hour
You
before
can
this all
still be
started,
there for
we're
him.
going to march over
I will.
down Pennsylvania
She may
Ave
hate me,
to the
but I'm
Capitol.
glad to have met him.
Eventually, after things got completely
No
out
way.
of control, and I know I'm not going to get every detail
Goodbye,
right, or I'm not going to get every detail into the story. Discussions about do we deploy the National Guard, reports that Trump resisted, but ultimately Mike Pence made the decision to deploy the National Guard. Trump seemingly not wanting to deploy the National Guard against his own supporters. And eventually Donald Trump uploaded a video saying to people, it's time to go home. He says, you're great people, we love you, it was stolen, it was a landslide that we actually won, but it's time to go home. And that video was ultimately locked by Twitter, later removed by Facebook. I didn't even find it on YouTube. Unclear whether they uploaded it and it was removed. It was a video essentially defending the feelings and the actions, but saying it's time to go home, and repeating the exact same stuff that ginned up the anger in the first place. Trump then also tweeted basically a defense of the rioters as he told them to go home. This was also removed by Twitter. Donald Trump saying, these are the things and events that happen when a sacred landslide election victory is so unceremoniously and viciously stripped away from great patriots who have been badly and unfairly treated for so long. He is saying, this is what happens when you steal the election from me. It makes sense that this is what's happening. And then he adds, go home with love and in peace. Remember this day forever. Also, ultimately removed from Twitter. Trump defending the actions of the violent rioters while sort of saying go home. So we're going to talk about reaction to this and the discussion of the removal of Donald Trump. We will, of course, cover the fact that Biden did get the votes yesterday. There are rumors that there will be more rioting today. And very important, there were only, as of now, 52 arrests yesterday, even though there were clearly hundreds, if not thousands of people who trespassed, did property damage, attacked police, broke the law in many different ways. The FBI has said it is a priority to identify every single person who did that. So I'm not going to call names out specifically on this show, but there are no right-wing activists and nuts who are pictured inside and committing crimes, trespassing, etc. Let's help them. There should be hundreds, if not thousands, of arrests from what happened yesterday. And there have only been 52 as of 5 minutes ago. So let's actually make justice be done, because these are folks who deserve a criminal record. We talk about someone holding, holding a tiny amount of cannabis who ends up with a criminal record, and how insane that is.
You're back.
These are folks who deserve criminal records.
The champions have been dealt with.
You should
So
be
it's a
dead.
new year, and for
You seem
many
disappointed.
people, that means new
The gods
goals
are punishing
around
me.
getting fit or losing weight. And if part of that for you involves a low-carb
They're
or
not punishing
ketogenic
you.
diet,
They're helping you.
then I have
Why do you
something
think I'm
will want
here?
to check out. It's called
The gods
So
must hate me if our paths
Ketolicious,
keep crossing.
and they're giving you 20%
From what
off.
I've seen,
So
you needed a
Ketolicious
divine
has
intervention.
perfected ketogenic
I don't have time
crusts
for this.
baking your
Sparta must
favorite
take this
foods.
region now,
They make a
while we have the
delicious
chance.
keto dessert crust, which comes in a chocolate
Let's
and
get this over
vanilla
with.
flavor.
I
And
couldn't
it's
agree
perfect for
more.
making things like pies.
The
They also
sooner
have a
I'm
premium
rid
keto
of you,
pizza
the
crust,
better.
which I've been using at home to make pizzas, and it's great. It is great to go right out of the freezer, and when you cook it, it doesn't fall apart like a lot of other low-carb crusts do. It's high fat, which is perfect.
Use Ibotta every time you shop. You'll earn real cash back on every purchase at over 500,000 stores. Simply pick your offers and come shopping. Then take a picture of your
Send
receipt.
these Athenians to Hades!
$10 bonuses for trying the app.
That would
Softball interviews with Trump family members continued last night on Fox. Eric Trump's wife, Lara Trump, also appearing. And hilariously, she is still being identified as Trump campaign senior advisor, which of course should make us ask, what campaign are you talking about? That campaign ended 2 months ago. Senior advisor to the campaign. And she says, I truly believe Trump will probably consider running in 2024. What a strong statement, right? But talking about 2024 does implicitly concede that Donald Trump lost this time, so that's something. But she's still kind of careful not to say it. Take a look.
Look, if he does not remain president for the next 4 years, I
Victory is ours!
He will probably consider running again in 2024. I believe he would win in 2024.
Victory is yours. You led us well today.
My father taught me all I know about commanding an army. Too bad you took him from me, or I might have learned more.
Stop.
Don't you dare tell me what to do. I am in command here.
You needed my help.
By the gods, how are you so arrogant? No wonder my father discarded you.
You know nothing about my family.
I know he threw you off the cliff and chose me instead.
Oh, now who's being arrogant? You were an afterthought. You were second place.
We'll see about that.
What do you mean?
Now that we've driven the Athenians from the field, it's time I dealt with my true enemy.
Stentor,
Your job is done, mercenary. Now I will kill you for what you stole from me in Megaris.
Today someone said to me, David, don't you realize?
you don't have to do this.
Oh, but I do. There is...
This isn't what Nicola...
Oh, fucking...
I am not a traitor.
You betrayed Sparta. You killed my father and stole...
I know there are people in my audience waiting for the big payoff where on January 22nd, all of these people admit they were wrong. You're not going to get that. You're not going to get that satisfaction because on January 20th, 21st, 22nd, they will come up with some new thing and say it was stolen in this way, and that way.
Killing each other.
None of it is legitimate. So if you're
waiting
will not
for
heal
that
the wounds of the
satisfaction,
past.
you're going to be
Pater.
waiting a very long time.
Hello, Centaur.
I want to take a second to tell you about one of our sponsors, S&H Masks. S&H Masks has everything you need when it comes to
Not just
face
yet.
masks and other protective
She
gear
should pay
for
for what she's
COVID-19,
done.
and they're giving my audience 20% off. S&H Masks is the company.
How many times do I have to tell you?
Stentor, she owes me nothing.
Trust the products they sell, and that's actually why I reached out to them
understand.
about being a sponsor.
You both have a greater role to play. Become the leader I trained you to be. Lead the armies of Sparta. How? You are an honorable man, a loyal son, and a great warrior. You will be. I will.
It's made of a silky, lightweight
You
cloth
already
that feels
have.
great on the skin. Has a convenient
That could have ended
strap.
badly.
They also have disposable cloth
Cassandra,
masks, which are really
a shadow
comfortable,
grows across
as well as
Sparta.
all of the other
Be
gear, like
cautious
face
when you
shields,
return.
alcohol
Mother and
wipes,
I will deal with it.
infrared thermometers.
You
And
found
all
her?
of their prices are very
Rolling
reasonable.
Naxos.
I also love
Sounds like her.
masks because they
May the gods watch over you both.
60,000 masks to healthcare institutions. They're an excellent company. Shipping is just $5. And shipping is free on orders over $150. You can get there by going to davidpackard.com/mask. The link is under this video. And you can save 20% on everything in their store when you use the coupon code DAVID.
John needs to get rid of his old mattress, so we called an internet want ad.
Mark, hey, Joe.
Need help getting rid of old stuff?
One volume that I absolutely fell in love with because it really focused on a lot of other characters that aren't always in the main spotlight, and that is, of course, the lovely girls at work at the bar itself. But of course, it focuses a lot more so on, of course, our lovely elf girl that works at the bar that is also in the Queen's Hotel. And of course, for those that are anime fans from season 1, this is very much, again, focused on that elf girl that we know and love from season 1 that goes down to the lower floors to help save Belle. For those that want a little bit of context, just who it is rather than just naming it and just hoping yes. We're new to this whole, it doesn't just focus on that, of course it focuses on the whole cast of the bar itself, even when it comes down to money. I really do love the attention that these characters are made, and I really do love the character development that Bonnie gets. Even though it's very small, I really enjoy those small little moments that we get to see.
I should try to stay out of sight.
She's very much one of those people force, so to say, that really cares about the people around her and takes care of them and takes on the responsibility when it comes to problems that they have seen.
My life is already over.
Have unique circumstances of why they're in the situations that they are. And that is one thing that is very much drawn me sort of first chapter and in the second chapter, because there are truly the story arcs in this that I really absolutely love. It's just the moment in the year is always like, you are my girls. If there is a problem, I will deal with it. Because of course one of the biggest issues that these girls at the bar have is that they have unique circumstances. They have enemies. They have people that want to bring them down a peg or two. So they're always in that mindset of running each one of them each time. Good luck, good luck.
Hippocrates, you know it's unwise to upset a patient.
He asks me to end his life when he knows I can...
Messias, please help me.
You cannot simply ask someone to kill you in my presence. I'm your physician. I will not allow it. I can ease your pain, analyze your symptoms, and try to...
Pain is just part of being mortal. It reminds us that we're alive, and...
I have known many pains in my life. My own...
Secured how? I'll deal with your rivals, and give your son a fighting chance.
Thank you, Messias. If you steal their assets, it will weaken their position and prevent them from posing a threat to...
Stealing isn't...
If doing this helps bring him some semblance of peace, I will pray for Tiki to watch over him.
because it really kind of glues everything together. Along with Sia, as much as Sia doesn't play as big of a role in the second half of the story, she is sort of just more of a background character.
I've done what you asked. Your family's position will be secure for quite some time.
You have given me hope that my name will live on long after. All I can ask.
You don't owe me a thing.
Now, it pains me.
I know what you want to ask.
This disease will claim me. Be it today or an...
Hippocrates won't just let me kill you.
I don't want to slowly waste away. I want...
I'll talk to him for you.
I appreciate your help. Now I must rest.
Doing this easy because it takes 5 to 10 minutes a day. It's not that much work. You just have to want to do it.
You got 5-10 minutes? You can change a lot in those 5 minutes.
He seems to be resting peacefully.
Yes, you help ease his mind, but he'll never truly be at peace until he takes his...
When will that be?
It's hard to tell. Judging by his... I can lessen his pain. But to do...
I'll collect the ingredients you need.
Thank you. It won't stop the pain entirely, but I hope it will help him feel more comfortable.
He doesn't want to feel better. He wants to die with some...
True dignity will be fighting through this, so I can analyze his...
I can't imagine how difficult this must be. But I know you're doing what you can to help him.
Sometimes I worry that it's never enough. First the plague, and now this. The...
I'll get the hemlock you need.
I would like to see a bit of a backstory on Mamma Mia if they don't dive into...
No, 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 no! Shit!
Rescuing of a bunch of young girls that have been sort of captured and sold off to a casino, and it really dives into some really fun things. So again, Belle plays a small part here, but it's more of a sort of, I would say, guest in the story itself. He pops in, has a thing in the story. It gives an idea of when it's lined up into the story. I'll put it in the line of the main story for those that are curious, but it goes between Volume 6 and Volume 7 of the actual main story itself, because of course it happened after the war game, but before the actual Pleasure District arc itself. And that's why some characters that you would think that aren't really big friends of Belle end up actually...
That's what I'm looking for.
Those that have watched the first season, there's a particular less than savory fella that actually brought Belle up quite a lot. That's in this whole that is very chummy rebel. He buys him a suit, he gives him some money, and they go out and have some fun. Of course, no one really knows what Belle's up to, almost close to Camilla itself. But you can see that again, this guy has sort of taken it upon himself to befriend Belle because he kind of feels that he's done a little bit of a dirty on his rescue down in the lower floors. It's a bit of a rub welcoming down in the lower floors because he got his butt handed to him. But that also being said, he made a lot of money betting on Belle in the war game. So I think he feels a little bit indebted on, hey, you know what? I knew what you were capable of. I placed a bet on you, so I won that. Here you go, have some money, have a tuxedo, and let's have some fun. And that just really blows things into quite a fun little, predictable but fun outcome where, of course, Belle has the luck skill. So Belle just wins everything at the casino. He's just winning. It's all just good stuff for him. And again, he ends up giving some of that money back to Sia, and of course our lovely elf girl, because they've gone in there undercover to try and rescue a girl that has been taken away against her will, but again being sold because the father of this girl got heavily indebted to a bunch of thugs. So that's basically the first major part of the light novel itself, that story of where they go in, they rescue this girl, and Sia really ups the ante. She manipulates and uses the situation to the best of her advantage. She uses a bit of Belle's luck as well, and that's where I think she knows that Belle's got obviously some luck built into him because she uses that to her advantage, which I absolutely thought was just clever, because it allowed Belle to not be the kind of trophy. It does show Belle just being okay with his luck skills, but it uses the sort of mindset of Sia being manipulated and smart enough to use that to her advantage. And I thought it was just a very clever way of doing it. And it's by far one of my favorite stories in this, because there's 2 stories, and that was my favorite out of the 2. But I do really like the second story, which is of course Girl Meet Girls, where there's these two assassins that have been hired to, of course, to eliminate our lovely elf girl, as I mentioned before, that again saved Elle. That is of course the front cover of this particular volume, and of course in the thumbnail. And as I said before, this goes into them being hired to remove her, and they end up sort of going through the process of having to deal with her, which leads into this big fight at the end. And of course these two particular individuals that have been assigned to, of course, remove this lovely elf girl, they have a lot of things that they have sort of shouldering. They want to retire, they don't want to do this gig anymore, they just are really sort of worn down, and they definitely have a vivid imagination of the things that they sort of want to retire into.
I got the hemlock you wanted.
Thank you. I know this task was a little beneath you, but it will help my friend here. I've prepared the elixir base, but I need you to grind the herb.
I think I can handle that.
Be mindful of the amount you add. While the hemlock is an excellent pain inhibitor, too.
Just as the doctor ordered.
Her bar is extremely popular, and the fact that, again, in the start of it, it notes these girls.
He seems to be calmer now.
The potion is working. With what I learned here, I could help many more who still have
something pleasurable.
Why don't you come with me? My crew and I need a good physician. Besides, the best way to see the world is by sea.
Yes, that does sound like a good opportunity. I'm bound to come into contact with all sorts of unusual ailments if I follow you.
That's what I just absolutely love. Fleshes out these particular characters. And of course, Sia gets some, but a lot of it is more in the second half story that Sia is sort of more of a side character that's just there to support, of course, our elf girl, and sort of bring them in, get them connected, and open them up a little bit. And I think you can see that, again, she was a lot more sheltered, she was a lot more closed off because she felt so guilty, so lost and empty because of the fact that she went with vengeance, dealt with that vengeance, and had no purpose. And that's what Mamma Mia tries to give her purpose as well. That's what I mean by Mamma Mia. She shelters not just the past, but also the current warriors that they have. She says to them, "You're my property, you're my girls now. I will be with you, sir. I'll deal with it." And again, Mamma Mia is a beast. She can deal with any problem. And that's what absolutely. So I'd love to see a backstory on her at some point. Because I just think she's a fascinating character, and I'd love to know how she got to the stage of being so powerful and what it was like for her to get into the position she was in the family, because she played a big, heavy role as described in the actual volume itself. She's got good connections, and of course, Hermes loves to use those connections in the main story as well.